I'm going to start again. Welcome, my friends. This is the Graduate Show. I regularly forget to turn on the mic. Thank you very much. Today, I did not forget. We've worked on the layout a little bit. We'll see how it works. We're still adjusting the layout. I need a lot of space. And then the guys at the Chessdojo who do the templates treat me a little bit like a NASCAR player, you know. They got all these things, and I'm like, dude, I need the space because to me, the highlight of the show is really people's notes that we're going to see here. We got 4 players, and the good news, especially from my perspective about this week's graduates, is that all of them have submitted games to the database. And that's been my concern in other shows, is that I'm seeing before it was like a third or something of people submitting their games. Here we're getting 4 people who've done the work at a variety of levels. And so the basic idea of the show is we celebrate these people, but we also take a look how they did it, what's their games like. Maybe I can give a couple pointers on the game, but also ideally I give some pointers on how to annotate a game, because that is really where we feel at the dojo that most of your progress is going to come from, and it is an art to annotate your games well. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to take a look at each of these annotated games, then we're going to pop to the scoreboard to see how they did it, what else they did, what might their challenges be. All right, so here we go. Boom. Let's go to games, and we're going to start over here with Ishmael, and he went up to 700, 800. One of the things that was interesting, I did a game review show yesterday, is that we're looking at some people who are lower rated, and they were not making a lot of mistakes. Normally you look at under 1,000, and there are a lot of mistakes, especially in terms of losing material. So, A, that was interesting. B, made me ask myself, do I need to rethink even what's going on at this under 1,000 level? Here we go. Let's take a look. Ishmael is black. Let's switch it up. If you are new to our training program or wonder about it, you have to play certain time controls for the classical games to count. And the lower rated you are, the faster those can be. So here we have a 45-30. If these players were higher rated, that would not count. At the dojo, we are going to reassess a lot of our stuff for our year anniversary coming up in May. And I'm even softening. I was the hard ass before about time controls. And I'm softening especially at the lower end about just them needing to play and trying not to drop stuff. Anyways, let's get into it. Pop, pop, pop. Okay. Now, one thing that I really want to stress, I say it every time, but the thing that I see a lot at this level and even beyond is instead of thinking just on a basic level about what are the good moves, on a principled level, I get a lot of thinking about names of stuff, which is not going to help. So, for example, I think it would be helpful if they didn't know the names of openings, even far up into the 12, 13, 1400s. And by the way, if you're not familiar with the dojo, we're talking about a FIDE international rating system that we devised. We had to create an international system because we had so many different rating systems out there. These, I believe, are ChessCom ratings that we're seeing at the top. So, off the top of my head, what are the moves that make sense? C6, takes, E6. Knight F6 might be weird but you'd have to know why. But on a practical level, is it going to be bad? No. All of those moves make sense. Maybe even the wild E5. Okay? So, that would be more helpful than that stuff about the Queen's Gambit. Did see a shirt though the other day? I gave a talk. I wrote a book 10 years ago, chess novel, and had the honor to do a little talk at Hopkins reading from the book. And a guy showed up with D4, D5, C4, Queen's Gambit reference. Pretty cool. Okay, here we go. For example, what is the drawback of c6 and the idea of c6? Oh, the idea is that you keep your bishop out as opposed to the queen's gambit declined, where you lock it in. Here, though, it should be stated, we've made our knight miserable. Okay, here we go. Nothing wrong with c6. Okay. Mike says this was a mistake because it leaves b7 undefended. Okay, now let's go ahead and say it cannot be a mistake. Okay, there's like from a theoretical perspective, there's a reason why this move used to be thought of as poor or something. But when you look at it, come on, that can't be wrong, right? Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. And this is actually an interesting theoretical position. I have had this position as white many times. And yeah, for ages, this was considered the theoretical problem for black. So Mike is not wrong in saying that, at least traditionally, this was considered a problem for black. One interesting fact about this position is that if black plays bishop c8 and says to himself, hey, so what? I'm playing knight c6, e6. Maybe I'm a little passive, but I'm fine, bows. I'm fine. Kind of a tough nut to crack. Okay, white has the advantage, but kind of a tough nut to crack. Your move, just giving the pawn, also is interesting because, yes, white gets a pawn, but we're going to get some compensation. Okay. And then I'll show you the newfangled move. By the way, let's just show a tactical point. The tactical point, I've played this a bunch in simul's, I've realized. I've had this a lot in simul's. And it's actually in a simul, it's very uncomfortable to win the pawn because then they get to develop normally. Tactical point is queen b6. This is the reason you take first on d5, you being white, so that we get pop and then intermezzo pop. Okay, so here we go. Oh, so wait, time out. Go back, Jesse. The newfangled thing is boom, 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 with the claim that black has more than enough compensation. So if you wanted to be newfangled about openings, you could really go for it here. However, what you did will also get you some compensation, right? Now, bishop g5, I'm not 100% a bishop g5. It seems to me that knight d7 would be better. This is a mistake, by the way, that you give. This is important to see, is that obviously white won a tempo, and now a later bishop b5 is going to be unpleasant. Okay, so pop. Oh, good. Now, this is really weird. At this point, why are you giving him the pawn on b5? That's something I don't understand. Like, he didn't take it before because he was a weenie. Maybe she is a weenie, but white didn't take it before. Okay? So at this point, why don't we just protect it with a lame-o move like queen b6? Right? We're totally fine. There's nothing wrong with our position. So here's the thing, is if white wants to punish you for this e6 move, they need it to really take either now or very soon, and then we get some position like this, where I would say white is better, but we have some compensation because the queen is a little funky. Okay. And if anything, in this position, the bishop wants to come here so that we talk to b8, so there's no rook b8 stuff. Okay, so we're going to say that's a weird move. And then I really don't like this one, queen c8. Okay. Here's a basic question. Rook b8, queen a7, rook b2. And here's the basic question that I promised. I said there was a basic question. The basic question is, who's better? Who's better in this position? I don't know. I don't know. To me, I think White's position looks very scary. In short, I don't know. I don't know who's better. Yeah, this is a real mess. So White took too long to take this pawn, and then definitely in your annotations, you should sense that you have the development lead and that the rook on the 7th is a hell of a drug. It's just a hell of a drug. We're undermining this. We got this power business, you know? And this guy's a genius. That bishop means that no, sir, you are not going to easily challenge me ever on the b file. Mr. Biscuit, hello. So queen c8, that's the one I want you to feel bad about. Okay. Now he takes, bishop a6, rook c7. Now we're going to ask ourselves a basic question. Did the players from this position understand that if it was possible, that it would be better not to castle? I haven't seen the rest of the game yet. We're just going to find out. In general, we want the kings to be in the center of the board when the endgame starts happening. Okay. Now, by the way, in this position, maybe I would prefer rook b8, just so that we would not be losing a tempo directly. Okay. Bishop f6, poor move. Now, by the way, now I see it. Both sides castled. So this would be an instructive mistake for both. Bishop f6 is not good for the main reason that we are enabling the black king to find a very nice home on e7. Okay? So you ask yourself, if you were just playing blitz or something here, what would be your default move? King e2, right? So now pop, pop, mistake, undeveloping the king. Mistake, undeveloping the king. This is one of the most common mistakes that I see again and again. Just happens all the time. It has to do with time, right? And in general, the path beyond 1,000 is about who's going to be giving away time. Okay, now we're going to get some funky moves. Now, I want to stress one of the key problems we've seen at the dojo is people studying openings before they're ready. And this next move feels like White, think about this for a second. White had studied enough openings to know about that CD, queen b3 trick, right? Studied that much about openings. But then in this position, doesn't play just the automatic rook fc1. Automatic. Why is that rook automatic? Well, we need to bring our king back in. And so a point I'd like to make is, if you follow the dojo training program, okay, what will happen is you will be prevented from studying openings, right? The program will just be like, no, boss, it's not time yet for you to do the openings, right? And so this shows me that the white player should be doing classic games and then other stuff, especially classic games, because the classic games will make it difficult for you to play a move like knight e1. And Ishmael correctly criticizes knight e1. Complete loss of time. Okay. Knight b8, a little weird. Couldn't we create some drama with rook b8 now? It looks like drama to me. Because what is the b2 pawn to do? I don't know. If the b2 pawn moves, we take it. That simple. If rook b1 happens, well, there's this problem and this problem. So rook b8, boom. Basic tactics. And the tactics happen because White has lost so much time and done weird stuff like knight e1. Knight b5, by the way, is met by rook c6. Coffee is delicious. Okay, knight b8. Encouraging him, I guess, to do what he wanted. Now notice what you're doing with knight b8 is I can feel that with that move, you've been traumatized by the bishop on a6. He's so unpleasant and like a thorn in your side that you're like, he's got to go. And so you're not seeing the other things that are involved in the position. One being rook b8 is a nice move. And two, the bishop kind of wants to now move because the only point of this thing was to do precisely what white does. And now something sad happens. Now you take this thing and, oh no, the knight that was so terrible is now a good piece. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. One of the things that I stressed about higher rated players is they often, what part of their quest, if you will, especially from like 2,000 to 2,400, will be to be sensitive about their bad pieces and to really feel it. And I think one of my thesis is that the reason that they often do not feel it is because their opponents haven't taken advantage, punished them for their bad pieces. So for example, in this position, white might have thought they were a genius. This was planned all along that they got the knight to d3 instead of black punishing them for their lack of coordination when they played knight e1. Now the knight on d3 looks like a beast. He's controlling this square. He's hitting this guy. He's covering this guy. It's a dream piece all of a sudden. Good move. Weird. I don't get it. We need to either we need to bring this bishop back. This rook needs to come in. This king needs to come back. All these things need to happen before something like a6 is on our agenda. Good move. Yep. Here he's got a variety of choices. He goes for this one. Can't be bad. E5. And if you were going to do this, I guess you should have done it with knight takes c5 first. And I get it. There's issues there too, but you're in trouble. Here, I assume he can play knight d7. What will happen? It makes more sense to me to take with a pawn. Why? Time. If we take with the pawn, then we bring the rook to c1. What's white's intuition when he plays knight takes e5? White's intuition is, I am going to trade off another piece and get closer to trading everything off with my extra pawns. That will make his life more difficult. Rook c7, good move. b4. Now, the reason you have practical chances to save this thing is white has allowed your rook to be active. And your king. Now, your king now gets the jump. King f8. a4. King e8 makes no sense. You got to go to the middle, my friend. What do we do with king e8? Come on. King e8. b5. White, let me just say, white might be winning with this barbaric way of play, but it's important to see that more seasoned players, whatever you want to call them, would have got their king involved first. Now, what's the problem with AB? This is an important thing. The problem with AB is that you are activating, developing the rook on A1. I know it's hard. Maybe, but it's a bit frisky because now you're pushing the limit. Now, is the pawn going to get lost? Rook b7. Yeah, and we're going to assume that this is lost. Let's see how it goes down. It's hard to imagine. Okay, so that's the way it went down. And let's just say there was, in a lot of ways, it was a dropping not of minor pieces, but of pawns, right? And a couple things to note is that at this point, you didn't need to actually lose the B pawn. And then even when you did, you had, I think, very compelling compensation with this move, okay? And then also, he gave you another shot when he disorganized his pieces. In general, okay, at this level, what you can expect is your opponents will play some move like knight e1. And it's at that point that you should look for tactics, ways to punish the guy. It will happen. It will happen again and again. So going over your games, partly a study in how to take advantage of weird moves, because they will happen again and again. Okay, here we go. So what we're going to do is Ishmael has graduated, and now we're going to skip to the scoreboard. I got this new layout here. Let's just see. Oh, man. Darn it. It jerked me. Wait, where did my... Wait, I know where. Wait, Bows. Oh, where did it go? Oh, man, where did my business go? There it is, Bows. There it is, Bows. Okay, here we go. So, let's go find Ishmael. We'll kind of look at his progress here. If you have no idea what's going on, you don't know anything about the dojo, what we're doing here is we are trying to find Ishmael, but where did the dude go? Hold on, he's in here somewhere. Find. Oh, that can't be true. Hold on, let me try this again. Wait a second. I feel like I'm being lied to. Let's go back over here, 700, 800. Where did Ishmael go? This is maybe something weird is going on with Ishmael. Huh, no Ishmael. We see Imp, we're going to talk about Imp in a second, but I'm not seeing Ishmael. I'm not on the wrong page. I'm allowed to search throughout the scoreboard. But I'm not finding Ishmael. Perhaps Ishmael isn't on the scoreboard, but still doing the requirements. He has submitted his games. So I'll put that as a note for DM Hokie. So Sombrero is writing me a Discord message. Don't forget me, Bows. Forget you how? Did you graduate? DM Hokie didn't send you a list. Means you were part of the list, Bows. It might happen next week. I don't know. We don't know where Ishmael is. Let's go back and go to the next graduate then. I'm going to try to find Ishmael at some point. So the next is Imp. Let's go take a look at Imp. And we're going to see maybe Imp has graduated more than once, but we're first just going to go look at one of Imp's games. So, as you can see, Imp, 900, 1,000. And we're going to look at the scoreboard, actually. Let's do the scoreboard now, my friends. Let's do the scoreboard now, because I had a question while I was setting this up just about the ratings. Because you can see he's at 900, 1,000. And then our scoreboard is significantly less than that. So we're going to go look. He's graduated at least one time. All right, Imp, here we go. So there's 800, 900. So he's graduated twice. By the way, a cool thing that we're doing now is he's going to have two graduation symbols over here. Now, let's just look at this one. So 25, his rating isn't in here, so that's actually kind of unfortunate. But he's got 25 games played. It says none analyzed, some postmortems. I did find some in the database, though. Look at that. Cranking, done more than a share of the maiden twos, all of the tactics, all of the classic games. This is what we want to see. Yeah. Memorize the games. Opening principles video. Review. Fantastic, dude. Imp is crushing it. Okay. And then let me go back in time a little bit too, because where was Imp? Let's find all the Imps in our life. So there's Imp, and yeah, it makes sense that we're not seeing anything yet from him here. Let's go all the way around. And oh, that's a different Imp. Baus. These are too many Imps. Too many things. Oh, Baus. Please stop. Please stop. Where's my Imp? Give me my Imp. All right, so there's Imp. This is 0400. And this is like, he's gone. Imp has, I think what's going on actually with Imp is I think he is doing it from the ground up. And we've had a couple of people do this where they start at the lowest possible cohort, do the stuff, and then go up. Because you can see, look, he did it all there, Baus. It's all there. And then he's also graduated here. He's not putting his rating down, so he might actually be just higher rated than this. And he's just, dude, he's just like, I'm going from the ground up, man. I'm doing it all. Yeah, so he's doing it all, and now he's over at 900, 1,000. So he's basically doing all of the recs from the ground up. This was not our intention with the training program. Is it a terrible thing to do, though? No, it's not a terrible thing to do. And I think what we're basically seeing, too, in his rating, because that was the question I had. It's like his rating is higher than his cohort significantly. So what is the guy doing? He's working his way through. He's working his way through, man. Fine. Not our intention, but still pretty cool. All right, let's take a look then at one of his games here. We'll switch scenes. And here we go. So Imp is white. 1678, yeah, he should be higher. London is fine. And good, C4, exactamundo. Here we've transposed to a Queen's Gambit, Bishop F4, Queen's Gambit declined. We don't need to know that, though. Now, what I actually really enjoy about the C4 move is there's kind of a whole culture online of knocking London players as if the London were somehow a terrible opening. But what would be true is that if Imp had played C3 here, then all of that criticism of the London would apply, because a lot of times what you see in London players is they just create this little shell of familiarity and don't think about what should be played. It's obvious, I hope, to everyone that C3 makes no sense here, right? Blocks the knight, no one knows why it's there. But you see that in a lot of London players. And it's only then that the criticism of the London makes sense. So C4 is very nice. I've had some London students, and they have literally played C3 in positions very similar. Okay, so C6, knight C3. Now knight H5 is a little funky. I would say a challenge of the London. By the way, I'm doing this aggressive ChessDojo aggressive repertoire for white, which has the bishop's opening. And the bishop's opening, LOL, is a mirror image of the London. The London feels a lot more stodgy than the bishop's opening, because the bishop's opening has pawns pointing towards the king side, i.e. we get usually an attack, whereas white's pawns are pointing towards the queen side, where white is playing for some kind of minimalistic advantage on the queen side. So mirror image openings, but totally different flavor due to the pointing of the pawns. I think bishop g4, and what did I want to say? in the bishop's opening and here, it is an art form to know how to deal with molesting moves like knight h5. We can leave it here. We can do something like this. We can do this. We can do this, right? All of these things are possible. I like bishop g5 a lot. I definitely don't like bishop e7, but honestly, I don't know what else the guy's supposed to do. And yes, that was a good trade for us. And nota bene, the knight on h5 has to go back. We'll give his opponent props for going back. A lot of times they just leave it there, hoping that it will fix itself. Castle's good. And now the guy goes pop, pop. Okay, so white's doing great. And black now makes a very common mistake, the kind of mistake I feel like I've seen a lot in simul's, where he plays knight b6. I'm going to go turn on the light, and if you guys want, just ask yourself, what's the controversy, knight b6? It's not like you've lost the game or anything. So the problem with knight b6, okay, is that black abandons the e5 square. And the difficulty will then be, not only is that a nice square for white maybe to land, but how are we going to get this bishop out, right? It's just going to be a lot harder now. So I would give knight b6 a dubious mark, and the default moves for black should be either castles or e5. All right, so boom, boom. Bishop b3, also very possible. Okay, rook c1. Definitely a big question here would be e4 for us. Knight fd5. Okay. All right, a3 is very highfalutin. And let's talk about this for a second. So, first of all, I wouldn't call that a minority attack. The minority attack for me is imagining if this pawn were on d5 and then we had a plan for b4, b5. That makes sense as what could traditionally be called a minority attack in a Carlsbad structure. But here a3, now sometimes I can imagine it being useful. But at the moment, let's say it was black's move. Would I be afraid of knight b4? No, knight b4 doesn't do anything. I just play bishop b1. So what move makes a lot more sense? Let's play knight e4. Yeah, no trade for you, Baus. And I control these squares, which are not only cool to control, but they prevent the development of the bishop on d7. Now, a thing for annotations. If you criticize a move like a3, what's interesting is I can feel that you feel misgivings about it, and you can imagine me yelling at you because it's not really a developing move. Then, try to suggest something else in your notes about what you feel would have been better. Okay, h6, strange. I don't understand. Maybe terrorized of some kind of thing on h7. And now b4, that is a bad move. Why? Mostly you're playing with pawns. Pawns are not people. And you are giving his queenside pieces something to do now. So at this position, he could play either a5 or castles, and then a5, both of which are going to develop the rook with purpose, right? So this is a classic example, this b4 move, of somebody playing with pawns because they don't know what to do, right? And let's just say, look at this move. One of the points is we're saying, it's really cool that there's no trade here, because if there were, then this knight could do something. And then we say, Baus, how are you ever going to fix this dude? You know? Yeah, What do you want, buddy? I'm going to come to c5 next and talk to your coconuts, right? Okay, so here we go. b4 mistake. a6, no one understands. Either a5 or castles. Queen d2, reasonable. I still like knight e4. And now the guy trades off. Now, he could have done this earlier too. And we see that that is a definite improvement to his position. The fact that he got to trade off one of his terrible knights. Rook c8, no one understands. Baus. You got a castle, man. You got a castle. By the way, this is a kind of a typical passive position that if you play these white positions against low-rated players, you're going to get a lot. And it's important to see that if black's a good defender, they can really last a while, right? It's a terrible position, and black has paid no attention to fixing the bishop or the dark squares. And you can see e5 is a real big one here for white. Also, let's say, this is an important feature, is that h6 is a negative tempo, especially now, because when the knight lands here, it's going to be really difficult to play f6. I was about to say there's no f6, and that's mostly true. That's mostly also true. Okay, so here we go. I don't get it. Okay, and now you get macho with e4. Okay. Probably not a terrible move, but it's important to see that it's controversial. It feels maybe non-controversial, but your pawn structure is really cool. And the second you play e4, you give black a dream, which would be the Steinitz plan of castling, putting his rook here, dropping the bishop back, and then talking to d4, right? At the moment, it doesn't have any dream. There's no dream. So knight e5 should be our default move, right? Probably not sound, but in the spirit of my previous moves. Let's talk about why this is poor. This move is poor because you are developing the bishop on d7. That is why this is poor. Has nothing to even to do with tactics, right? And let me make a point that I made before. A reason that players often struggle in the 2,000 getting up to 2,300 range is they don't feel the terribleness of their pieces. And one of the reasons I think they don't feel the terribleness of their pieces is their opponents will often play moves like d5, fixing their problem, right? Black's problem is now fixed. C takes d5. Thank you very much. Right? Oh, thank you. What a gift. What a gift. No problemo. Right? No problemo. Thank you very much. So, okay. Let's go. Now, I'm assuming white maybe had some wild fantasies of e5, but even if we have to, we'll win the pawn, and even if we have to go back to h7 or wherever, we have fixed our bishop. What a joy. What a joy. Okay. E takes. Yeah, and he was expecting CD. Let's see, actually, this is what he wrote. I actually guessed his intentions a little poor, but because I don't understand this. We're just down a pawn, boss. Now we're just down a pawn. Ah. Okay. E takes. E takes. And now rook e1 is on the table. Now, yeah, so pop, rook e1, now queen d8, let's give it a pass. Maybe queen d6 is possible. We'd have some tactics to talk about. d6, frisky. All right, the reason this is especially frisky is it's not clear how you're going to defend that thing after the obvious bishop e6. But it's true that in this position, it's kind of like if you want to play for an advantage, you're committed now to doing something frisky like d6. Because I don't know, you don't want to take the pawn on c6. So what I want you to feel is that you were in complete control of the game at this point. Complete control. And now you've lost control in this position, right? And that's why when you lose control and you think you deserve to be better, that's when you start playing moves like this. All right, rook e6. Hard to believe. Let's see what you write. Probably the defining move of the game. More of an intuitive move to weaken the light squares around black's king and remove a key defender. Not necessarily sound. The one thing I was worried about was knight d5 at some points, but I figured I could pin it with bishop c4 and trade it. Okay, so the drama for me about this is knight d5 is still coming, and now the rook on f8 is going to be developed when knight d5 comes. Yeah, so rook f7 is definitely weird. And knight d5, oh, well, looks hard to meet. And if we didn't like knight d5, we could play queen d7, followed by rook c d8. Yeah, but black's winning. He just has to make sure not to fall for like a queen d6 trick. That's his one job. That's his one job. He's gotta be careful not to fall for. Okay, rook f7. I don't get it. And then here's a tactical problem, and we're gonna give Imp some kudos here. Here's an example of a tactical situation where his opponent, who became obsessed with the d6 pawn, instead of his pieces, gets tricked with knight e5. And now white is presumably winning because the d6 pawn cannot be taken. And not only that, but our knight is so beautiful. So now I don't even have any advice for the poor dude. I guess he's got to go back to rook f7. All right, so he goes knight d5. Let's just point the trick out. Pop, 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 pop. Goodbye. So knight d5. Good move. That's not it. Oh, baby. Nice. So, very nice finish. And, yeah, I think, definitely going to be keeping an eye on Imp. We're basically, one of the amazing things about the Chess Dojo is we are constantly learning about chess improvement, how people interact with stuff, and with the program. And Imp is an interesting example because he's one of a handful of people who've decided, taken it upon themselves, that instead of putting themselves in the cohort that most suits their rating, they're more like, no, bows. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to do it all. I'm going to do it all. And these are mostly good notes. And I think a couple things. This is a fast time control. And if Imp were playing the time control demanded by his cohort, it would be more of his proper cohort, not the one that he put himself in. But it would be higher than 3015. Right? When you're down below the under 1,000 cohorts, you're allowed to play at a quicker time control. So that's an example of maybe how Imp putting himself in a lower time control might have hurt him a little bit instead of helping him. But I still love the experiment, let's call it, of what Imp is doing, and we're definitely going to be following him. Nice finish to the game. What was I going to say? In your annotations, put time usage is important. I get it. At 3015, there's not, obviously a lot of these, I probably spent more time looking at this game than was spent playing the game. And then also, when you do annotations like that, say what they should do, Here, A3. If you didn't like it, say what you should do, right? Okay, beautiful. let's go on to the next game. This is going to be CBGGH. I don't know what it stands for. We're going to flip the board. I love stories like this. Let's just read it. So begins my first classical game ever. I set up a board beside the computer during the game to follow along and create an OTB type experience. Beautiful. Wonderful. So let's just talk about it for a second. There are millions. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic there. There are millions of players who have begun playing chess kind of seriously in the last couple of years. Maybe their dad taught them when they were 7 or something. But only in the last couple of years did they really dive into it. Queen's Gambit, boom. People stuck at home, boom. And so it's really cool to see CBG getting serious about the game. And then now we can follow along and see what their experience is like. Amazing that he's gotten to this point, 1500 ChessCom, without having never played a real game before. Stunning to me. Stunning to me. Okay, here we go. Pop, pop, pop. Did we go over this game before? We looked at something very similar yesterday. Wow. We looked at something very similar. If I had looked at this game yesterday, I have to look at a different game. We had this exact same thing. Hold on, I'm going to go through this just a second. Yeah, we had a very similar game. Did we have the same thing, Bows? Yeah, we did. We did. What? Hold on. Let me quickly pull up a different game. I did a... How did I get this yesterday? That is so bizarre. Yeah, I totally did this. I totally covered this game. Amazing. Hold on. I'm going to get another game in here. CBG. I'm over at our database. By the way, we've had a little bit of interesting trouble with the database. I didn't even appreciate it first. No, there's only one game in here from CBG. Huh. Right, there was only the one game I could find. That's right. I'm going to blaze through this. There is in our VOD, video on demand, a deeper dive into this game. So I'm going to refer to that and kind of go through this kind of quickly. There was a lot of interesting things. We saw the typical example, for example, of players castling when they didn't need to. Boom, boom, undeveloping their kings. That was superficial. Yeah, I totally remember this game. His opponent basically plays a bunch of superficial moves because they don't know what to do. And black became fine. Here, b5 was great, a3 was poor, knight c4 was great. And then this was an interesting example because white or black CBG criticized himself or his opponent for taking. But that knight on c4 was such a bouse. It was such a bouse, it needed to go. Okay, I did cover this game, so that's in our VOD channel, I think from yesterday. If CBG or others want to go look through it, I spent quite a bit of time on it. Amazing, but that was his only game in the database. So let's go look at where CBG is in the scoreboard. CBG, I'm sure it stands for something amazing that I'm just like obviously not aware of. And there's CBG. And so CBG's gone from 1200, 1300, 13, 14. It should have him listed below as a graduate, but we're not seeing that yet. I might look for Connor in the database too. In any case, let's take a look at what Connor's done here. Rating increase of 71, Points per box, 5. Fantastic. Submitted just 2. Oh, no. Actually, look. 2 games played, 1 game in the database. So I assume I found that game. Oh, and look at this, bows. We got the tactics. 1,000. One of the few people now who finished the mate in twos and done all of the tactics stuff, did the endgame stuff over here, and then did some of the other work. Great. Now, one of the things I'm seeing in looking at the graduates is there's definitely a collection of people who, made progress mostly with tactics, with the mate in twos and the puzzle rush stuff, which is fine. And my general impression is to make progress, they're going to have to do more of the game analysis. But another key thing to see about this is if you make it without having done the analysis, it probably shows, and it's not surprising somebody who's just taken it seriously recently, it probably shows that you're not at your plateau yet, right? You're not even close to your plateau. That's what my suspicion would be. Okay, so beautiful. Let's go and do the next player here. Go to graduates, pop, 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 and this is Big League. And we're going to flip it over here. Okay. So, now Big League. This bishop b6 is actually not as ridiculous as it might look, but you should say something. You should say something about it. Good. I had this position many times when I was a kid as white, and I would play c3 in this position. The main move is knight f6, but sometimes it would go d6, d4, bishop b6, which transposes to the game that you have. And it's certainly an interesting position for black. It's a solid position for black. Okay. So here we go. d4, d6, bishop e3. I'm not a huge fan of bishop e3. If we ask ourselves what's the correct move is castling short. If it's not castling short, it's something fancy like knight g5, but that's controversial. It would have to be some tactical reason that works out, but I don't even see how it does. So, bishop e3, funky. Because it's not clear that the bishop belongs here. Okay. Now we get a real funky move here. Boom. Now, this is clearly an example of overthinking. This is clearly an example of overthinking. So what he's saying to himself in the notes, and this is a great reason to write the notes, is you can express like why you did something. Knight c7, you should definitely give yourself a question mark for. He is concerned about d5. So moving it before it gets hit, and he's saying he was proud of this already. So now he's going to be proud of moving the knight before it gets hit. So let's talk about it. d5 from white would be a very poor move because it blocks the bishop on c4. So one of white's whole problems here is he does not want to move the pawn. Now, you don't also need to be a genius to just recognize that I'm going to yell at you for knight c7 because you're moving a developed piece twice, bows. So normal moves would be pop, pop, and maybe pop. Right? You don't have to be a genius to name those moves. By the way, so here we go. Let's talk about opening theory. In a lot of these positions, a simple game you can play is, well, what are the moves that look right? Those are the moves that look right here, right? It's not knight ce7. Okay. One thing about this move that we want to say is it would be good for us to see the times. I know I've stressed this a bunch, the times on the clock that people spent, because it'd just be interesting. Sometimes when you see a really weird move like knight ce7, that's a move that someone actually tanked on because they were getting overly clever. Whereas if you were just playing basic chess, you might play knight f6, knight e7, bishop d4 kind of quickly as an intuitive move. Bishop knight ce7, definitely not an intuitive move. Okay, and queen b3 looks great. De just looks like a clean pawn. This looks like it's just both moves completely winning for white. Okay, so he plays castles, and I'm gonna guess, dude, maybe just moved it instantly, you know? Good. Now we're not gonna lose instantly. We are, however, still gonna lose our pawn on f7 to de if he plays de. Does he do it? No. Again, it'd be interesting to see the time spent. So de, and no matter what's going to go down, this pawn it's a problem, Baus. It's a problem. So actually, even here after castles, you're still it's still bad news bears, man. I like knight g6 because it like kind of sort of protects the pawn, but in fact it doesn't, because de is the end of the line. Bishop e3, you could, maybe white was afraid. It's like, oh, I'm getting double pawns. Baus, you're opening up your rook to this beautiful f7 square. And if he leaves the pawn there, then there's no knight f6 development. And if he takes it, it's good knight Lucy over here, right? Okay, so good move. Now you're back in the game, right? One of the things to say about this kind of position as well is your maneuver knight e7 g6, whilst it was tactically completely wrong, it is true that the knight on g6 is interesting as opposed to c6, in the sense that the knight on c6 is dominated by the pawn on c3. So you do actually see a lot of super GM games play knight e7. They're not dropping the pawn on e5, okay? But you do see knight e7 sometimes to g6. Poor move, right. So what we see a lot of at this level is somebody doesn't know what to do, and then they lose time, right? And one of the challenges for white in this position is, well, what do I do? I've got this time advantage. Now what do I do with it? And bishop g5 is horrendous, because that's really probably his best bishop, and he's just going to allow us to play h6 and recapture, and we get the dark squares, and then we're just cruising. So what should he do? Now, if he couldn't find any plan at all, right, he should play h3 just to prevent knight g4, right? Other tries could be a4, trying to develop the rook, obviously trying to get a little frisky here, right? Another try could be moving the bishop somewhere, intending knight c4. Okay. Pop. No good. h6. Exclamation. Pop, pop, pop. Horrendous. Horrendous. He activates my bishop, kills his own bishop. Now my two bishops are pointing at his king. Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, I think it's weird that you didn't castle here. And it's true that when he does this bishop b5 check, you get to play king e7. But, well, why are we messing with it? Baus, just castle. Because what it does is it allows bishop b5 to have some kind of role. At the moment, that bishop's just dead. And one cool thing is, the position you get in the game will be mildly familiar or similar. But this position is like positionally lost. It's probably, I don't know what the computer would say, but it is so nasty here because the force count of black against the white king, it's tremendous. Let's do it like this. Let's do the drunken queen arrow. Okay. So, let's get into it. D5. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this D5 is I think both players were obsessed over this move, D5. But it is absolutely the wrong decision. And why do I say Black was obsessed with it? Because when he played knight e7, he's like, oh, I'm getting out of the way of that big D5 move. But it's a classic mistake. You just blocked your stuff, bows. This went from a good bishop to a pawn. All right. Little strange. Bold. Bold and good. I like it. It would have been a much worse decision to play bishop d7, because then you lose your beautiful bishop and he gets to exchange off his horrendo bishop. So actually, I think, especially from a coach's perspective, I really like king e7. That you didn't even think. You didn't even think about playing bishop d7. Okay, knight c4, good move, because, and this is actually a bonus for him from having played, what are you trying to say, buddy? From having played bishop b5 check, you got that square. Okay, now queen g6, does this win the farm? It might be winning the farm. Boop. Okay. Now, yeah, good move. Good move. And I think the guy needs to play g3, but it's still hot after g3, and you're still crushing him. So actually, first of all, I was a little upset. I'm just going to admit something. I was a little upset that we allowed knight c4. I don't want him to be able to do anything, but he's not actually in a position to do it, and you proved why. Because you're popping his center apart when this goes down. Let's go through your variation. Queen e4 seems right to me. Let's look at queen g5. g3. First of all, there's no... Okay, let's just look at your variation. Pop. Pop. And here, dude could have played. Boss, can you get clear on your thoughts? Could play f3. And this also speaks to the fact that white should probably play king g2. And yes, you can play knight f4, but you were just there, and now we can even go back, right? And furthermore, in this variation, you could play knight f2. So, what do I want to say? A little work with the annotations, right? A little work with the annotations. Okay. Can I just admit a Boomer GM mistake that I just made? I told people at the dojo that I was going to do this thing at 1:30, and I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, oh, boss, it's past 1:30. Because you started at 12:30, you idiot. It's Jamil's fault, because normally we have a lesson at 12. And then that guy, couldn't make it today. So anyways, Boomer GM blew it again with the schedule. Here we go. The good news is, if you ever want to watch these shows, you can. So queen e4, genius. I think that's correct. I didn't see queen g5 as winning, whereas this is definitely winning. It seems like a thank you very much moment. Oh. So what was your fear here, queen d5? Looks like you're winning, right? Looks like you're winning. Okay, so knight h3, bizarre. Is it bizarre? Oh, maybe it's fine. Kraai, stop being so judgmental. Look, he's winning the knight. Beautiful, thank you very much. You're totally winning. Okay, but yeah, he's toast. The guy is toast. And yeah, I would want to get rid of your bishop too. It's talking to f2. You're totally winning. Nice that he developed your rook. I don't know. I don't have any good advice for the guy. Let's read what you said here. I just wanted my pawn back. First of all, you're up a pawn. You're up a pawn. I think I should have played an improving move. His pawn isn't going anywhere. I'm not sure I have a problem with this move, especially because it's developing. I would only have a problem if he somehow could do something, but I don't know what it is he can do. Now, it is true, your king, has a little bit of scrambling to do, but you own it. There's no way through it. Like, let's say he plays rook g3, which maybe would have been a better practical attempt for him. Bows, just show him the business over here. Show him the business. Our king is safe. Safe. We're going to play boom. Okay. Still, this was not it. And look at this Bows move here. Holy moly. Whew, that is Bows. That's a Bows move. All right, let's say a couple things. From a practical perspective, at this point, most people would tell you to consolidate your king. Okay? But your king is actually in control. Rook a4, intending this, looks like the simplest to me. But this g5, okay. I like how you're trying to kill him. That doesn't do anything. Okay. No one knows. b5. Now that's too frisky. Even if it works, you do want to keep your king in this tight little pocket here. And the challenge for you is to find ways to build your position without putting your king in danger, right? So like queen d4, f5, followed by king f6. That's the kind of thing we should be looking for. This now, you're probably still winning, but you're making me nervous. Okay? Pop. Pop. And so it's making me nervous. Queen b5 is an option here for the guy. And now you're loosey. You're definitely loosey-goosey. Uh-oh. All right, so now it's looking like maybe we're still on top, but now I want to stress this is an example of you having lost control of the game, right? Check the miserable queen. Check the miserable king. Good move. And now he's getting close to full compensation. Good move. Good move. Now, rook c2, you are a frisky dude, big league. You're a frisky dude. You're like, I don't need to worry about my king. I'll just move my rook in. Holy cacholi. What's going on? So what am I trying to say? Maybe it's a genius level move, but why don't we just put our king in the pocket? Put him in the pocket, Bows. Fix your problems. Okay. Not sure I get this. Oh. Dang. And one of the things that's interesting about this that I think you can take away, Big League, is you were so intent on hurting this fool that you didn't take care of your king. Okay? So in this position, you went from an easily winning position to one where you're going to have to think about things. And then queen g4, all in on the attack, when, hey, we got first order of business is we got to fix our king. We got to fix the thing, right? Okay, that was kind of interesting. And some key takeaways, and honestly, let's review this for a second. Besides your opening play, especially this move that makes me want to die, you played a nice game. I especially like king e7. That was showing really good maturity. Now, would it have been better to castle first? Yes, and it's part of your pattern of playing these aggro moves. But the great thing about King E7 to understand, from an understanding point of view, is this bishop is terrible. And because your pawns are pointing this way, we now have a King's Indian structure. And in the King's Indian structure, your good bishop is this guy. And he's an angry, angry man. Okay, so we do not want to trade him off. So that's a class move. You would see a lot of players playing bishop d7 or something else because they'd be like, oh, I can't take it. I can't take my king being loosey-goosey. All right. Great annotations. I think this was actually correct, queen e4. And if anything, part of the drama here was you were not content when it came to the technical part of the game and instead wanted to waste him at all costs, right? Whereas you just look at this position here, knight h3 was fine. You are body slamming him and you just need to fix your king. I want to stress, especially from a practical perspective, forget whatever the computer might say here. Fix your king and the rest will follow. Okay, good. Now let's go take a look at the scoreboard and see what we got. Boom. I feel like Big League graduated one time before. We're going to check that instinct of mine. Big League. There he is. So he has gone to 1,300, 1,400. Let's see if we find him again. Pop. There he is. So he wasn't, look at that, he wasn't 800 to 900. Big League has done some graduating, my friends. He has done some graduating. So hold on, let me move this out of the way. So let's just go through his progress. So he started in 800, 900. And he started at 1,500 lead chess. I have always a hard time to understanding lead chess stuff. Notice that when he started, he was already above the lead chess limit. So Big League definitely following the pattern of Imp, who started lower than he needed to, but not that much lower. Let's see what he did. So we got some games not submitted, at first anyway. Some postmortems, great. Some made in twos, some tactics. Let's go to the next Big League. So then we go 800, 900, beautiful. And overall in the dojo, the guy has gained 344 points, right? 22 points per box ticked, amazing. Still no analyzed games here. Postmortems, genius. Some of the made in twos, not all of them. And all of the Puzzle Rush stuff. Some of the classical games. Let's do the next one. And then we're looking at 1,000, 1,100. This dude, see, he gets a lot of little. See, we're trying to reorganize this little row. That's where our they call him Guy. This was Kostya's thing. I wanted graduation hats. We had a vote. He won. In any case, we're going to need to expand that to show all of Big League's graduation ceremonies. Let's see what he did here, 1,000, 1,100. Okay, so here, look, he's progressed and really did the 13 games. Probably maybe one of those is what I found in the database. And that looks great. 27 games played, 13 analyzed, we're talking. And almost all of them made in twos. Fantastic. This is what I want to see. And a lot of other stuff. Beautiful. Let's keep going with Big League here. So, right. And now we're at 1,300, 1,400, where we're just starting off here. And he's at 580. Now look at the poor dude. Now you get up here and he's like, oh no, Bows. I got to go up to 1,470. I got to go up to 1,470. Oh no. It gets harder as we go up. And let's just talk to Big League. If he goes up some more, let's look at his rating here for a second. So actually, look at this. He's changed. This is actually really cool. he has changed it to a FIDE. Fantastic, which means he has reoriented himself to over the board. Fantastic, fantastic. And he's close. He's close. When he goes up, how many maiden twos will he have to do? He's going to have to do 1,500. And now let me just say the drama. What's the drama? 1,300, 1,400, it sounds like a lot of maiden twos you got to do, right? Because you got to get up to 1,470. But the real drama is, I believe it's 1,472. From that point on, they get a little harder, you know? They get a little harder. Okay, yeah, beautiful to see both Big League and IMP's progress. Some of the people that have really moved up in the dojo using the program, I like it a lot. Kostya's writing at me. What is he saying? Don't forget the logos. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Also, I would have forgotten, Kostya. I would have forgotten. Sombrero wants me to take a look at his game real quick. So let's do that. What's going on here, Baus? What's going on? And how come you have the wrong thing up, Baus? All right, Baus, fix it. Fix it, bang. And now, let's go look at Sombrero's game real quick. Sombrero's not a graduate, but he wants me, he's like, Kraai, look at my game, buddy. Look at my game. Okay, Sombrero. You're not a graduate, bud. I don't know if you're part of the show. Let's go through it here. All right. Holy moly. Should equalize for black, he says. Okay. My recollection is ED first was correct. Now black is fine. Spicy. Good rule of thumb that I really like, Kostya turned me on to, is don't play bishop h6 unless you think you're going to mate the guy. Now d4 is definitely a mistake. Rook b8 is correct. Bishop e6 is correct. So what's the problem now? There, with the lack of tension on e4, the knight on f6 is dominated. Okay, frisky. He's still trying to mate you. Good. Now white. Now it looks. My gut is that we're winning the race. Let's find out. Definitely a mistake. Either h4 or also knight g3 is a frisky move to play too. Okay. So definitely knight f4 would be el thematico, but h4 pop, pop, pop. Interesting. What would happen on bishop d3? That seems to be the big question. I don't know. Holy moly. Look at this analysis. Check to the miserable king. Check to the miserable king. Okay. Sombrero, a little bit. There's some questions there. There's some questions, Baus. Feisty. Yep. Pop. Pop. And now we got problems, huh? Rook d6 was definitely a question. Yeah, now we're toast. Now we're toast. I don't quite understand white's play. This I get. This I get. My opponent disconnected here. That's what he gets, Sombrero. That's what he gets.